Hello, my name is Courtney Causer, and I will be presenting about soft robotic technology to aid in treatment of heart failure. A little information about heart failure. It's the leading cause of death in the United States. There are about 550,000 new cases every year. There are 4 different types of heart failure, the first one being left side, which is most common, and is when the left ventricle of the heart isn't pumping normally and prevents oxygenated blood from traveling to the body and ends up backing up in the lungs, creating a buildup of fluid. The right side of heart failure occurs in the right ventricle of the heart and doesn't perform efficiently and is usually caused by left side failure from the backup of blood in the lungs. This causes the right ventricle to work harder and can stress the muscle, leading to the failure. But this can also be caused by lung disease. Then there's diastolic heart failure, which is when the muscles of the heart become more rigid, usually due to heart disease, and won't fill with blood easily, leading to the lack of blood flow in the body. And this happens more commonly in women than in men. And lastly, there's the systolic heart failure, which happens when the muscles of the heart lose the ability to contract, which is necessary to pump blood through the body, and develops when the heart is weak and enlarged in size. This happens to be more common in men than in women. So the people that are most at risk for heart failure happen to be blacks, and they're more at risk than any other ethnicity. And in general, men are more at risk for heart failure. Then there are pre-existing conditions and behaviors that can also contribute to heart failure. Some pre-existing conditions include anemia, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and emphysema. And then behaviors that can contribute to the increase in your risk of heart failure include smoking, consuming foods in high cholesterol or fat, being overweight, and then also having little physical activity during the day. This is just a quick anatomy lesson. I'm not going to go into very much detail because I don't need to explain everything for the heart sleeves, but the myocardium is important because that is the focus of the muscles in the ventricles. And then what you don't see is the pericardium, which is a fibrous membrane that surrounds the heart and protects it as kind of an outer layer. So here is the first soft robot I will be talking about. And this happens to be a silicone sleeve, which is molded to a heart. And there are electrodes that are embedded within the mold that you see in the picture to the right. This is the original picture, which got me interested in the subject. And this model uses 3D printing technology. And it's also customizable towards individuals that would eventually be using this. As you can see down in the bottom picture, there's the geometrical information, then becomes the 3D model, which then makes the 3D sleeve, and then you can integrate that with the heart. And here is a link to a short video showing the sleeve pumping a rabbit's heart. And then the next sleeve is a compression model, and it's in sync along with heartbeats. It has a protective layer of hydrogel, which separates the compression tubes and the heart, protecting the soft tissues. And it has an external pump, which uses air to power the soft actuators, which eventually do the compressing. This is also customizable, and there are no electrical pulses that occur within the sleeve to make it work. Then there's this model, which is similar to the previous device, but it has a different conformation of the actuators. This is more of a twisting pattern, And then there's also a device that has the combined use of the compression and twisting actuators, and that further mimics the normal heart function of a person, which can be seen in this video. That's the compression sleeve. As you can see, it's pumping large volumes out. All right, and let's stop that. Next, here are some other devices that can be used in assistance with people that have trouble with their heart due to heart failure, their pre-existing heart conditions. It could be many things, but these aren't sleeves, they're just assistance devices like a pacemaker, which keeps the rhythm of the heart. There's monitors, which keep track of the function of the heart. And then there's a ventricle assist device, which is used to pump blood from the ventricles to the aorta, which is this picture up here. And there's even artificial hearts, which you can see down here in the lower right corner. And with some of these devices, it is necessary to take anticoagulants because they are coming into direct contact with your blood, and that could be bad news if there's a clot that eventually forms. So one paper that I saw and did research on used Yorkshire pigs as cadavers, and from this photo you can see up in the top corner for A, it's a setup of the model used for testing with the tubes which measure volumetric output, and transducer is used to measure the pressure that is exerted when the device is working. Then in the second photo off to the right, B, it's depicting the different models that are being tested, which are the compression, the twist, the compression and twist, and then having the layers with the twist on the outside and then also with the twist on the inside, which means that the compressions are external. Then for C, you can see that it shows the test with the biventricle model. This demonstrates the effect of increasing pressure output measured by the volume displacement. And as you can see, with the higher pressure, there's a lot more volume that is displaced. And for D, this picture shows the selective actuation of the ventricles measured by volume displacement in biventricle model. And so you see that there's more output of, solution into the tube displacement when each side is turned on. See on this side, the left ventricle portion of the model is turned on, so that's where it's compressing. And then there's normal function in the right ventricle. You can see there's a lot more output. Then for the other side, it's just opposite. The right side, for the right ventricle, is on and compressing, and that has higher volumetric output of fluid. Continued, this other data shows up at the top for section A, the compression model operating after a cardiac event, and you can see that it has lower output than the normal heart function. Then in B, you can see that the twisting model for its design 2 is operating after the cardiac arrest, which shows a higher output than normal cardiac function. C shows, or it actually compares the compression, twisting, and the compression and twist combination model, which the combination model of the compression and twist is the darker line, which has a lot more, it has a higher function than each model individually. Then D shows cardiac output when compression model is functioning on the right ventricle, so the right compression, like we were seeing in the last picture. Then E shows cardiac output when the compression model is functioning on the left ventricle, which we also saw in the last model. Conclusion of this report, this experiment that they did, is that these sleeves synchronize with the native heart motion of the cadaver pigs that they used for the research. This reestablishes cardiac output in pig hearts during acute asystole, and asystole is the most serious form of cardiac arrest and is usually irreversible. And the device increases ejection output in the pig cadavers, as we saw with the increased volumetric output. And then this device, it provides cardiac assistance in pigs with acute heart failure. The relevance and significance of this is that more people are surviving from heart attacks now than ever, and they are ending up with heart failure because they're surviving cardiac events. This trauma from the cardiac event takes a toll on the muscles of the heart, and these devices are ideal for interaction with the softer tissues of the heart. This assists those affected and can potentially lead to healing and recovery. The devices that surround the heart instead of redirect flow of blood are safer alternatives, and potential of clots, bleeds, or malfunction of machinery that can disrupt flow of oxygen. There's a lot higher risk for those that come into direct contact with blood. Some recent findings. So this first article that I saw, it was March 3rd, 2014, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and Washington University in St. Louis. Some quotes from the article. They used computer modeling technology and a 3D printer to create a prototype membrane and fit it to a rabbit's heart, which we saw in the video earlier. They kept the organ operating perfectly outside of the body in a nutrient and oxygen-rich solution. Circuits are laid out in curved S-shaped design that allows them to stretch and bend without breaking. There's a snug fit in that they compared to the pericardium, which I told you about earlier, which is the membrane that encloses the heart. And this specific device, they were saying in the article, could detect a cardiac event and then apply high definition therapy, so electrical pulses, in order to get the heart functioning at a normal pace again. The second paper that I read, or article, was from January 20th, 2017. It was Harvard University and Boston Children's Hospital were involved. They did research on the soft robotic sleeves. Those are the ones that they did research for were the ones that were using the soft actuator compression tubes. And they're looking to reduce the burden of heart failure. There's proof of the concept, so they know that it works. And people are turning their attention back to compression devices instead of pumps with soft robotics because the technology has gotten better. And one quote that I pulled from the article was, supported by a translational research program grant from Boston Children's Hospital, a Director's Challenge cross-platform grant from the Wyss Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering, Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and the Science Foundation, Ireland. These are all the people that were involved with the research, that's what I was trying to find earlier. So there's many people looking into the research of this. The impact that these would have is that in total, there's about 41 million people around the world that suffer from heart failure. About 5 million of those people are in the United States alone and are living with congestive heart failure. About 610,000 people die of heart disease in the United States every year. And with so many people affected, these devices can bring them a better quality of life instead of having these lower standards and pretty much just a non-functioning heart, especially since people, they have longer lifespans, so they'd be living longer with these problems. And CHF is the first listed diagnosis in 875,000 hospitalizations and is the most common diagnosis in hospital patients at the age of 65 and older. So my personal thoughts on the matter is that I'm very excited for this technology. It's really incredible what they're doing with 3D printing and the soft actuator compression tubes, but I still think they have a long ways to go. So far, they've said that there's no human trials yet. They're still on the animal trials, making sure that it's safe. The devices, I think, also are just a little too bulky because they take up a lot of room in the chest cavity, specifically the compression tube sleeves. And they're doing the research, sleeves that they are doing research on have connections outside the body. So these tubes, there's tubing that's connected to these sleeves to help them work and make the heart function, but it's not solely something that can just be contained within inside the body. You have to actually keep devices and pumps and everything still outside the body, specifically with those sleeves. And they just don't look appealing because of the bulkiness, because of how much material they're using. And so the silicone sleeves look the best. They take up less room, and I can see this technology going further in the future with all the technological advancements in medicine. And researchers, I read in some other article, are looking into making the silicone device a monitor that you can track through a smart device, which is connected through Bluetooth. And then I would really love to see more papers that are using the silicone sleeve for research instead of the compression sleeves. Questions and answers. Not much of that going on. Then here are some of my references. I'm pretty sure there's more, but this is what I got down. It's been a good quarter.